All right, all right, all right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Man to Man Voices and Stories. I'm 72 the Architect, aka Jason B, and I'm going to be talking about the importance of male friendships. Yes, a part of my series of Man to Man, I'm going to be focusing on pretty much men needs. Women are welcome to listen and participate, but just remember this is coming from a male's perspective. So I am producing live on Instagram, Wisdom, uh, what is it, Twitch, Twitter Spaces, and YouTube. So if you want to participate, look for 72 The Architect, all one word on YouTube or Twitch and Twitter Spaces. You'll be able to find me and make comments if you don't want to call in or be a guest, but you want to be a perspective. So, why is it that I brought this episode up? I brought this episode up because a part of mental health, I would definitely have to say that bonding with other men is so very important. And I've heard it from several other men that they've had a hard time making male friendships. They, a lot of times, men are isolated, depending on their dynamics, whether they're in a family or they're single. Bonding with other men for some is harder than others. And why is that? And I started to look into myself because I started wondering, why is it so hard for me to make other male friends? And when really started looking at the issues, it was more about the things that I grew up with. Now, in grade school and high school, it was pretty easy for me to hang out and be with guys of my liking and who did things that I did. You know, I competed in track and field, wrestling, cross country, and, I did things in high school. But after high school, I joined the Navy, and I really, really made strong friendships in the Navy. And I've got to say thank you to shout out to all my brothers and wherever I've served with you in the fleet or, home side. So shout out to them. But the more that I looked into why it is an issue for men specifically, so to speak, uh, I looked at what were the ingredients. After the service, you get married or you get into relationships, or maybe you're just really dedicated to work. But eventually, men need that bond time, whether it's exploration, camaraderie in sports, games. I mean, I have friends who play poker, but no matter what it is that men need that, it's like we don't want to intrude a lot of times. In my perspective, I don't want to intrude on others. And sometimes I don't always vibe with some guys. Some guys are very overly aggressive and I'm not, and sometimes I'm a thinker. So it really depends on um, what place you are in your life. And as you get older, especially in my particular position, I have definitely seen the effects of me not developing male bonding. So, and I have definitely made it. Oh, Samantha just sent me a message. Give me a second. Um, I have definitely made it important for my healthy masculinity, my male bonding, to really outreach to other guys who are in the same position, doing exactly um, what I can do to connect. Because there's times I don't need to be with my family. There's times I need to be away from my kids. There's times that I need to understand how other men reach their resolve. And when I knew that that was a big part of my life, um, it was not easy. And I have a few brothers I definitely can say that have made a big difference, and mentors, and just their own leadership, their patience, their style of understanding, whether in a relationship or not, made profound effects on what it was. Because one thing that I did not have is I didn't have a father who showed me the ropes, so to speak, showed me that how to handle things, in a healthy masculine way. And I'd have to say that there are a lot of men who have a warped sense of masculinity. There are so many things that, in my opinion, that constantly attack a man's position in his life. We've constantly been ridiculed throughout media that we're not understanding enough, we're not social enough. We've been called labels like narcissists, misogynists. I mean, you name it, they have a psychological term for every part of us. And this isolation backs us up and basically puts us against the wall, and we don't necessarily always just fit in. So where can we be safe with amongst our peers? And it's I do have female friends, don't get me wrong, and they're not all bad, but there's times I need to go fishing, or I need to take off on my bike, or I need to go hiking with a friend, go to a Giants baseball game, shout out to the Giants, you know. But no matter what it is, I found a reason. And as I've been studying and harnessing my own healthy masculinity, you know, um, and attitude, it really took me a lot further ahead in my life, and especially being a father. So when I teach my kids, my girls, I'm setting the example to them. Sometimes I've set a bad example, sometimes I've set a good example, but it all comes down to, one of the many ingredients in your life is that how why it's important to have male friends. Now, I have a message from Jessica. She says, "Hey, just letting you know that I'm here supporting. I don't want to jump on because man to man, I don't want to take up space, but I'm here to support." You know what? That's quite all right, and that's okay, because today is, women can be a part of this show. I want you to know you're not excluded, but just remember the focus is on men. So, Samantha, if your man's awake, and he's available, he can always jump on in your profile, and he can add his 2 cents. So he's more than welcome. And anyone in the audience per se is definitely welcome. Because you know what? How you communicate. Maybe you might have a brother, maybe you might have a dad, a friend, someone a colleague who needs to know where they can go. And I'm not just talking trying to go see a therapist or a coach. Sometimes guys are really known well to work things out, either in camaraderie, in events, team building skills, in business. I know that I am a part of a group that helps sharpen my tool. Like they say, iron sharpens iron. That wasn't by accident. I don't know where it came from, but there's a reason why they use it, because when you sharpen iron, it is very gritty and it takes a lot of patience. And the only way to get its true sharp edge is if you use iron itself. So that's the other thing. And in sharpening that tool, that means mentally, spiritually, and physically. It is very, very important to all men that they edify those specific areas. If you do need to exercise, this is a healthy part of your living. So let's go over a few of that things just real quickly. So for men, it is important that we exercise. And when we exercise, it's a great opportunity for us to bond with other guys. Sometimes some guys are more experienced than each other, and they help each other up, push each other in a healthy, respectable way where it's not over emotional or leveraged. So with that being said, it's definitely one of those things that we take in accord. So when it comes to spirituality, I've seen many, many different men lead in such a way that it's of the spirit. It's your belief. It could be your religion, your faith. And with that being said, I've met many spiritual guys who've made a difference in my one of my good friends, Matt Anesis. Um, he's in Texas. When I was going through some dark times, in my spirituality, he was definitely a guy who stood up, and said, "Hey, brother, I got your back." And there's no better feeling when a guy has his back against the wall, when he definitely feels that he has someone who can really stand up and say, I can't feel what you feel, but I understand the struggle. I understand. So that camaraderie in the spirit can make a huge, huge difference. And then it's mentally. How do men train to be resolved and reserved at times when they absolutely need to? Because if we're always leading into impulse, um, you know, we can react the wrong way. I said it in one of my Instagram posts, or my stories. I basically said in so many words that, hey, Um, we need to understand how men need a certain level of understanding, giving them space. And it is happening all over the place. I've seen plenty of times, and this is not a criticism, but a critique. I've seen it where so many men shut up and not voice out what the problem is or the story. And so many relationships break up or fathers break down, including myself. How can I truly express myself if someone's always interrupting me? That's one of my biggest pet peeves in the world. Let's say I got another message coming in, and someone says, "Oh, he's asleep because he has to be awake at 4:15." But I'm going to have him listen to this on his way to work. Okay, cool, cool, cool. It will be on YouTube, so he can watch it on there as well. So anyhow, um, but when we look at the level, I mean, there are plenty of guys here on Wisdom, and I got to give a shout out to a lot of those guys who definitely stood up and just took the challenge. About maybe 2 months ago, I'd have to say, I started this idea. I was going on Wisdom. I was talking, why aren't there more men speaking and talking about men issues, male issues, because mental health is a big deal. The highest rate of suicide is in the men category. That's not a lie. I was listening to a well published speaker, but male suicide is at the height right now, and that's a problem. We need strong men in the community, and we can't just say, well, it's only about the other side, women. It's integration. It's us working the balance of each other. So let's go over a few things and a few articles that I came across, as well as books. And I will put the description or maybe links of some of these books that have really helped me along the way and really helped me understand about what it means to be not only a good man, but having male friends. So the first article that I came up with was an article. Where was it published again? Go to the top. It's called Short Form, and it's stated, you know, why male friendships are so important for men, printed October 4th, 2021. And this was written by Elizabeth Shaw. So this was written by a woman, and what she reported as a perspective. Now, some guys might turn that off, but here's what they kind of gave a little bit of a sum. They said, why are male friendships so important, quote unquote? Why do men sometimes struggle to form friendships? And what are some great tips that can help? Everyone needs friends. In fact, research has shown that friendships or a lack of them affect our physical and mental well being. For men, building friendships can be difficult, which can lead to loneliness, mental health problems, and the unfair dependence on romance partners. That's a big issue. Just that last part, the dependence on romance partners. Many people are and women are complaining, why am I not meeting the right kind of guy? Well, this is one of the elements that helps integrate men in society. When they don't have a space to go to, I've done it myself. I'd say to my woman, "Hey, I need someone to talk to. No one understands me. I'm afraid to voice out and look like a weenie, or excuse my language, like but a pussy." That happens, but it doesn't have to stay there, and it doesn't have to stay that way. But it also, the article goes on and says, "Keep reading." It says a guide of male friendship. Okay, so number one, it says men bond around experiences, while women tend to bond by discussing their lives and emotions. Men relate to each other via shared activities like sports and camping. One study about 40% of male participants carpent, carm, carpent, I can't even say it. Is basically where you put in a box. I'm not even gonna try to say the words. I'm tongue tied. Their friendships. Female friends were said to be intimate confidants, while male friends were there for engaging in decidingly male activities with. As men grow up, they find a time and space and energy for these kinds of shared activities become increasingly difficult. I did mention that. And it's not an accident. Men are more likely to prioritize their marriage and career over friendships. In the book The Lonely American Drifting Apart in the 21st Century, Dr. Jacqueline Olds and Richard S. Schwartz recall that in the 1980s, a study that examined social isolation in America, they found that even more than women, men regrettably put their friendships on the back burner to focus on their career, marriage, and family. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good thing. Now, stepping away from that article, it's not a bad thing that you step away from your marriage, and just go, whatever you want to do. If it's sometimes having a beer or just going on a hike, going on a bike ride, there are methods in which guys connect. And sometimes we resolve against each other with that iron sharpens iron, that hardness a little bit. Sometimes, hey, you might be complaining a too bit too much, or you're not looking at a good, healthy perspective. But when we look at the order of operation of how men, oh, sorry, my screen's blocked. Sorry about that, guys. Here, I got to move this out of the way. There we go. I didn't even realize I blocked my good camera because I have Instagram going on right now. That's just too funny. Anyways, but when we look at actually why men connect and why they need to is because we amongst guys, we call it guy code or man code sometimes, brought funny by a Bud Light commercial, man law rule number one, blah, blah, blah. But guy code means that, make sure that you know what you're saying because more than likely you will be checked. When we look at actually how men check each other and correct each other, sometimes it really depends on the actual engagement. So if it's around women, yes, men do flex. But, at other times, um, sometimes it's for your own benefit. Maybe you're just having too much emotions and you can start shifting yourself by doing an activity. Best way to, one of the best tips that I ever got was going to the gym and, excuse me, pumping iron. Lifting weights was a big deal. And there was something about lifting weights made a huge difference to me. It allowed me to harness my energy and my frustration on whatever I was dealing with, but looking at it in a healthy perspective of like, hey, I decompressed, I let go. Because sometimes we guys, we just want to hit things. It's like you see it in little boys. When they get pissed, they want to beat up something. They're destructive. It's out of control rage. Somehow we don't always understand. And it takes a long time to carefully craft that rage under control, right? Looking at that control of whom you are and what you will become takes training. That's right, training. You need mentors. You can't just stop at college or, I learned a lot from the military. You have to actually think that what you're doing is going to make a big difference in the outcome, in your leadership, in your walk. A couple distinctive things that I noticed right away about a man is exactly how he portrays himself, either by a super ego or a well balanced ego. This is I have a visitor on Instagram. It says, "I'm listening to you on wisdom for a second on I am okay so far." Type okay, got you. Okay. Um, But anyhow, if you're listening to me on Wisdom, type the comment on the Wisdom app, and that might help. So I appreciate it. Anyhow, getting right back into it. So when we look at the importance of male friendship, we're looking about at expression. And I kind of came across something in Stoicism, especially from Seneca. He says, we advise a man to regard his friends as highly as himself, to reflect that an enemy may become a friend, to stimulate love in the friend, and to check hatred in the enemy. I think that's very, very, very important. Just that quote alone, because there's sometimes in for guys, we definitely can see like one of my best friends I grew up with. I got into a fist fight with him. I don't say I advocate this, but we didn't like each other when we met each other. There was just like, two boys, huff and puff. But we got in a fist fight. We looked at each other, how crazy it was, and we became best friends. His dad became like a second dad or a dad that I deserved, so to speak. So when I looked at, my camaraderie, my growing up, had it not been for Mel, my friend Gareth's dad, there would not. I think it would have taken me more development. And just to give you guys a shout out, if you're listening to me live on Wisdom or YouTube, You can type in comments. You can also call in if you want to come in and speak for a few minutes while I'm talking. You're more than welcome to be a guest. But just remember, be respectful, be poignant. Don't trauma dump. I don't want to hear the sad stories because you know what? That's not this show today. I really am an advocate for healthy expression, and we need to focus on the positive things. So, if you're out there and you want to make a comment, you have a thought to share, feel free to join the stage on Wisdom. You can come up for a few minutes and definitely want to hear your perspective. And you know, anyhow, getting back to this series of men. So, when we look at actually what's really at play, men need a certain style of attention. Sometimes just getting out of your head, not expressing too many emotions all at once, or learning how to harness those emotions for the most effective part of you. And that's one of the things. And I spent a lot of time reading different books and studying how I could do it better for myself, as well as a therapist. I purposely had a male psychotherapist. I didn't want a woman. I wanted to speak to a man because not that I had to worry about what I had to say because he's there for me to help me correct my behavior, but to bring out the reasoned choices that's understandable by men. And I got to thank Dr. Roger Carey, who was a wonderful psychotherapist and a big part of my development. Really helped me make large steps. And he's now retired, which, that's another thing and another story. But the point is that even as a psychotherapist, he helped me see the light and have bringing the answers out of myself to see, yeah, I need to hang out with other guys. Go bowling, go play tennis, go golfing. A lot of guys bonding golfing. So let's get into the steps and how men can actually start connecting. You know, how to build male friendships. Now, according to that article I was telling you about on short form, which is shortform.com/blog/male hyphen friendships. And you can find this article. And I'll try to put the link in the description on YouTube. It says casual hangouts, movies, game nights, potlucks, bonfires, barbecues, and just relax. How do you build a male friendship? The easiest way is to make plans and hang out. You meet someone, it's like, hey man, complimenting each other, like just be like easy going. It doesn't have to be super in deep, but hey, I like what you said out there. I appreciate that, man. That really gave me an optic on the situation. Like, this is how I do. This is how I connect with other guys. Yo, you know what? I totally dig that hat, man. Where'd you get that at? That's an introduction. Or hey, man, love the jacket. Looks well. Good on you. Cool, man. You can give compliments to guys, and they may look at you a little funny, but if you're like legit and you're just being real and you're not trying to be overreaching, just like, hey, man, find something that you can that they're interested in, and you can do that. So, attending events like sports, concerts, discussion groups, that's a big thing. For me on Clubhouse, there is very big groups that are focused on men specifically. And I've been a part of some of those groups. I've not posted man to man on Clubhouse yet because I've I still am doing the work on myself. And to be that thought leader, I know the accountability is a big deal to me. So yes, it's and I have plenty of these great men and individuals out there that definitely have made a difference. But anyway, and I bonded with them talking about sports, talking about, hiking, rock climbing, going surfing, fishing, all kinds of things, talking about motorcycles. Look, I am a big car buff. I love muscle cars. I love learning how to work on cars. I like being mechanical. That's another thing you can bond with another guy. Hey, man, look, I see that you work on brakes or you work on an exhaust, man. I'm definitely down. You'd be interested. Hey, do you mind, if I can learn from you a little bit? These are exercises and things that men can bond and safely on. And yes, we do locker room talk. We do joke around. We are sarcastic in certain ways. And there are healthy forms of that expression. Long as you're not overly putting somebody down or just being closed minded and general minded about the opposite sex or gender. or someone's sexual orientation. I'm not an advocate of abusing any certain person in this world. I believe 100% that every person deserves respect, and it doesn't matter what kind of identity you have. So but this is where men are edified with friendships. They can talk freely, they can be themselves, and sometimes hazing a little bit, sarcasm, joking around, being goofy, doing, as I call it, stupid shit sometimes. But it's a good thing. The next thing that the article suggests, being exercise buddies or starting a team. Yeah, that's a great idea. My neighbor across the street, Anthony, um, we have talked now recently to go to the gym. I haven't been to the gym in a while, and I definitely need to go back to the gym because I just need to lift weights, and I just didn't want to go to the gym during the COVID restrictions. That did make a huge difference to me. Is like having to wear a mask wasn't going to do it. Why even bother? I'm not going to restrict my face, you know, whatever. But that's another talk in itself. So, or building a team. Yeah, you could build a flag football team or a baseball team. Um, about probably 12 years ago, I played on an all men's hardball wood bat league. We're not pros or nothing. We're over 30. And it was a great team. I played for the Stockton Indians, I believe. And it was a great to be a part of. I haven't played baseball since in a team format since high school or maybe even junior high. So, and I hung out and, met some really, really great guys. But that's the thing is, you may be afraid what to say to other guys, but to take the pressure off when you're connecting with another guy, make simple statements. If you're not sure about knowing something, hey man, I like how you did that. Ask. Look at and here's another area that I connect with other men. Being a United States Navy veteran, um, being a serviceman has definitely been bonding. But this one I'm very careful because I have noticed, especially lately, I've been seeing guys taking a part of stolen valor. What is stolen valor? Either they didn't serve or they served and it wasn't an active role, or, you know, like trying to claim like being a Navy SEAL or a Marine Corps Pathfinder or an Army Ranger. You know what? I don't advocate. Yeah, I think if you do that stuff, that's something just don't do. But there are guys. Hey, you can serve in a capacity role, being in the fleet, being in the ship like I have. Being a corpsman, that's something that I can bond with other guys. Like, hey, yeah, I stood up, watch 14 hours one time. I've got a guest over on Wisdom. I got Mojo. Hey, Mojo, what's going on? I'll invite him up. And three, two, and one. Good evening, Mojo. Welcome to the stage. How you doing tonight?
Jason B, how you doing, my buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. So, what's going on? Something you want to contribute or a thought process that you want to share about the importance
Yeah,
of male friendships?
absolutely. I was just swiping through, and as soon as I saw that title, I was like, I got to talk, man, because this is so essential, and I don't think it's talked about nearly enough. So I love the fact that you put that down, you bring it to the consciousness, and bring it to a topic to discuss. Um, I think that for whatever reasons, some are cultural, some are ingrained in us from our childhood. That male friendships are generally relegated to shared experience as opposed to like digging into meaningful conversations.
Hmm.
You are an exception to that rule because you are a thinker and a talker, which opens up all sorts of portals for connection. But generally speaking, I think it's fairly safe to say, although it's a bit of a generalization, that guys tend to bond over shared experience, but they
Right.
don't necessarily open up over deep thoughts and especially feelings. And there's tons of reasons for that. Do you agree, disagree, observe differently?
Um, I would say it's a mix, honestly. My male friendships, there's some that are closer than others, some that I reveal like some real personal stuff. But the reality is the measure of a man is not very easily understood. A lot of people assume
Agreed.
what a man is, and I really can't stand, like, one of the things that triggers me, honestly, is when I get told by someone who does not understand what it is to be a man. When they don't
Right.
understand, we hold, like, for example, I said on Instagram, I basically said that especially when his partner, when a man remains silent, especially with his woman, he's doing it because he loves you more than likely, or doesn't want to use that sharp edge of the tongue, because that tongue can build or destroy in seconds. And something about being a guy, when we talk, we command. I've even watched it with my daughters. When I talk to my daughters, it's different from when my girl talks to my daughters.
Yep.
Totally different. Like the
Agreed.
the tone, the command, the presence, it is way different from women. And I will say that, and I will put my life on that one and swear by it. So
Yeah. So
good.
that is my experience and my observation as well. I'm a dad of two daughters. They're both teenagers now. One's 15, one's 13. And as men go, I'm probably as verbal as any that I've met, and I'm fairly sensitive. But you are right. The words that I use can build up or tear down quite actually a little frightening to see the impact and be aware of the impact. And as you know, once that bell is rung, it's impossible to unring it. And it does take a lot of work, especially in the heart of your daughter or your wife, to try to explain, that it's better for me to remain silent and
Mhm.
look like I'm stupid than to open my mouth and prove that I am.
Right, right. It's a big deal. And like my girl the other day, she was saying to me, she goes, babe, I didn't realize. I didn't realize it was that bad. I've got your back. I support you. And
Yeah.
sometimes especially when you don't know how to deliver the message to your lady or to your partner, and sometimes guys, like, one thing I heard recently, that is really toxic to men is like, if a man's talking to you about something, he's not asking you to bring up the pink slips, the past bad behaviors to associate, because we're not equipped when we resolve something. I'm speaking for myself as a guy. When I resolve something with my partner, it's done. The forgiveness is there. We don't need to rehash it out unless it's really the same thing. But we're not equipped to handle the irrational pink slip behavior of throwing it in your face when they feel emotionally weaker. And it's okay to feel, in relationships, I can definitely tell you, it's okay to feel, that you may not have an advantage or a strong position. But see, you got to think about how the guy takes it. He feels that a lot. I know I have. I don't know if you have.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
has your wife or partner ever said, just you're talking about something, then just it's like a knee jerk, like, "Oh, okay, wait a minute. Well, where did that come from? I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on this." And we just sit
Yep.
there and let them talk, because that's one thing I was taught: don't interrupt somebody, especially give respect to a lady. But that nowadays that comes with caveats, but not to take away from the main purpose of this talk is the importance of male friendships can sometimes make the difference in guidance,
Yep.
mentorship, of navigating those
Yep.
emotional spaces. You know,
I gotta go. Just I'll be back when I can. Thank you.
not a worries. Thank you so much, Mojo, for coming in. I do have another speaker coming in. I have Mary. I'm going to let you come in, but please stay on topic, and please, because I'm not warning you to be a bad thing, but I'm just saying I only have a limited time to make this talk, so please be respectful. All right, Mary, welcome to the
Jason,
stage.
I'm always respectful. But as a woman, I have to say I grew up with very, very strong men in
Okay.
my family. And through this experience, I learned a lot.
Okay.
I and throughout my life, as I said this before, I was in a man's world.
Okay.
And I have always, always had great experiences with men.
Okay.
As my teachers,
Okay.
as my mentors. And there are times that I am very much like a man, but I'm female, all woman. And I respect what I respect about men is the way they teach and the way they stop and it's over with.
Mhm.
But women could go on and on and on. They could go 1,000 years back. And I do it, I admit. Uh, but it is very, very important for men to have good male friends.
If you don't mind
My
me asking you, in when you were growing up, whether your father or uncles, relatives, how
yes.
important was it of their bonding in front of you or a family? How important was that?
Well, there was always controversy because one was stronger than the other, but at the end of the day, we all sat together and we ate, and they taught me so many things. And I've never been molested. Yes, harassed, of course, that happens, uh, but I overcame all that because I was able to go and confide in them. And as a daughter, like my dad was the kindest man I ever met in my life. No one could compare to him. And I learned kindness through him. But at the same time, I learned to react when I saw something that was wrong. Um, and I learned that through my uncles, not to be afraid to speak up. Um, I learned a lot. Uh, if it wasn't for my uncles, I would have never been a gymnast. I would have never gone to wrestling or be an ice skater or be a businesswoman.
Okay.
Because they taught me courage and they said you could do it. Especially growing up in the 60s and 70s, that was I should have been a teacher.
Mm.
That's what all the girls were going towards, teaching, counseling, or whatever they were doing. But because of especially one uncle and another cousin of mine, when I went into business, basically I had no knowledge, no money, no experience. All I had was $500. And they said, we got you. Just go ahead and do it because we know that you can. And that's all they said. They did not give me a framework. They did not give me, these lessons. They didn't, say do this in order to achieve. They let me have it. And I remember one time, my mom, that's my youngest uncle, my mom was complaining about me. And he said, if the ship is going to sink, let it be. She'll learn her lesson.
Okay. So Mary, this is where I got to stop. Okay. So I need if
Yeah,
I want you to focus on the friendship aspect for men, and I appreciate your back. So I really do.
Okay. Well, it is very, very important for men to get together, be open, and not be afraid to show their emotions and discuss their family issues, triumphs, and failures. Um, Men should not be afraid to cry.
True.
We're all human
That's a big one
beings.
right there. How a
Yeah,
guy handles he cries in front of another. That's a big deal. Men don't
it
cry in front of others very
can be,
easily.
yes, it can be shaming because men are taught to behave in certain ways. And I think it's very important for men to be vulnerable and to express them, especially if you have daughters.
Oh yeah.
She's gonna
You
grow
can't.
up.
Yeah, she's gonna look for a man. More than likely,
Yes.
she's gonna look for a man that's, believe it or not, I didn't. Someone told me something about, you end up dating or being with the average of your parents, like whichever
Yes.
parent was dominant. But
Yes.
when I look for a woman, and I didn't really think about this, but sometimes, my girl's very patient, very different from my mom, but her delivery, like when we engage, can be like, sometimes like a motherly figure. So that's the thing is but it also goes in the reverse, like men talking to women, and especially young girls as they come up, how they respect a man versus how they can walk and use a man. So when guys are really in their friendships, a lot of guys sometimes they'll compare notes openly or very close lip. They'll speak in
Yeah,
code, like they won't necessarily say things that are easily expressed. They'll speak in like little innuendos or little descriptions. So when we look at how men and women communicate, like one thing I will definitely say, and I can only speak for myself, I don't speak in code. If you ask me something, I'll give you a straight answer.
oh
But
yeah,
I've talked to women where they don't want to hurt our feelings, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Because like sometimes when guys get rejected, we take it hard and we can be explosive or we can. But see, this is where male friendship and bonding, it's like it's the accountability factor that guy like, hey, you acted out of line with your lady, or hey, you know what, that wasn't cool for you to do. So when men and women actually look at how they respond to each other, a lot of times it's how they learn from other men in their lives.
agreed. And
So that's
with my brother, I see that with my brother.
mhm,
He had the wrong, what do you call it, examples,
mhm,
and it was through friendship. So he resorts to verbal and physical violence. Now he's gotten better.
mhm.
That is not a man. And he's my brother. I love him. He's a man. Um, but he's been married for 40 years, and that works for them. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
But
yeah. And Mary, thank you so much for giving some of your story and sharing. Because these stories, there's not a lot of instruction from boys to become men. It's just expected. And
oh
sharing your
yeah,
story, I definitely appreciate, and I want to say thank you so much. And I don't mean I am going to apologize a little bit because sometimes I've had encounters where it didn't really necessarily fire in with the show. But the point is I appreciate what you're saying now because when you tell somebody like, "Hey, my dad was a kind man," a lot of guys grow up with this theory of being a hard ass, and you don't
no,
need to be.
no,
Yeah.
no, you don't have to. For example, I have an uncle that he's a destroyer. He thinks that's how a man is supposed to be. No, that's not how a man. That's not the behavior of a man. A
Hmm.
man's a man has to show physical strength, mental strength. He needs to show a presence and be a protector and a defender. Not that women cannot defend themselves,
Right.
but there's a presence about a man. And
True.
when I was married, and I'll say this, and I know one talk to other men, and I respect that. But I married a man that was like I was the man and he was the woman.
And that can be that can be very problematic.
Yeah,
It can
set up in a
cause identity issues,
oh
lack of
yeah,
respect, big arguments. It can lead to a lot of bad things. Resentment is the biggest one, and a lot of beautiful, amazing couples have lost each other because um, one thing that I am a big supporter on is, ladies, you don't want to mommy your partner.
no,
He's not your mother, or she's not
no,
your mother. She's not your, like, here, just be okay. No, she know this, how men and women deliberate between each other. And that really has to be redefined now, especially now. And, a part of that is dealing with sometimes some guys, they completely forget their relationship and they go out with their friends, and that's toxic,
oh yeah,
toxic friendship. And I've seen and heard that. Like a guy told me, I remember taking my girl and my little one out for a steak dinner, and he goes, "Oh man, you want to come out with us and play some ball?" And I'm all, "Absolutely not." He's like, "Oh man,
oh
you're
yeah,
gonna weenie out?" And I'm like, "Let me
oh
ask
yeah,
you, how many times have you taken your lady out for a date other than Valentine's Day and her birthday?" And he just shut up and hung up the phone. Because I know
oh
that
yeah,
guy. I know he's always at every sporting event, every uh, meeting, everything outside of, and his woman is lonely. And I'm like, why do you do that? And he doesn't show his face around me that much, but it does happen, So, Mary, I do have another speaker. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, but I agree with what you said, and that's when cheating happens. That's when temptation comes, and a lot of other issues happen, and that's where we all lose out. The men and the woman loses out. So by saying this,
that's a big one.
Speak with you soon.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
I just want to comment on that real quickly, Mary, is that there is a lot of cheating. Like I've seen it where guys go to other women while they're in relationships and the bonds are broken. Like it's really difficult to have friends that are female and not cross the line because it does happen. Me, I've had female friends, a large number of them, and I've had very few male friends. I had to learn the counterbalance. Me, it doesn't really matter to me whether you're male or female because I'm very solid in my identity and I'm very solid with who I am and and there's lines I just don't cross. And I tell everyone, hey, I've got a relationship. Gary Thompson, man, it's been a little bit. So good to see you, my friend. How you doing, man?
Man, I was looking at my last talk on here. It's been a while, man. Great to hear your voice, man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And man, this is a much needed conversation, man. We as men, or I'll say for myself, how I was raised, you always have to suck it up, You can't be crying and showing your feelings, but when you grow up and you go through life, and I'm thankful I had two really good friends that probably helped me through some very tough times through divorce and things like that because I could talk to them and actually shed a tear or two, and it's very important, those friendships.
Exactly.
And I wanted to say one other thing. I have a really good friend of mine. We're both in the tech field, and any of the techs out there, technology, it can be very stressful. You're dealing with a lot of demands on yourself, your job, your relationships, and so forth. And I've never really had anyone to talk to but him that's in this field that I feel comfortable sharing with. I mean, I know other men in the field, but certain things you just can't share with anyone, right?
And right, there's some things you just gotta hold it down tight,
Yeah, and but the other thing you said about the daughters, I've heard that too. Your daughters kind of attract what their fathers were. And when I went through a divorce of the mother of my children, I paid very close attention to that because it was very hard going through that. But I've always honored their mother. I always tried to do the right thing. I always spoke good things, or try not to say anything negative about their mother, and just be an example of how you handle relationships. Um, I wasn't cussing her out. I wasn't giving her a hard time. Now, I won't say it wasn't the same the other way, but again, just having to endure that and take that higher road. And the interesting thing about it, she married a gentleman that is very similar to me. I was in the Air Force. He's in the Air Force. He's an entrepreneur. He reads personal development books. He's looking to grow and expand. And I would say part of it is probably true. She saw her father, and she married someone very similar to myself.
Right. And what's interesting about that is sometimes I've seen women where they dated their father, and their father was abusive, and then they get into an abusive relationship. Yeah. And I remember someone in my church at the time, she was a part of this domestic abuse, and a friend of mine was the counselor, and he's like, I can't tell you what's going on, but man, you wouldn't believe some of these ladies, they go from abusive raising and then they get into a relationship exactly the personality type that the guy is, and then it sets a bad tone. And the process of abuse, that's a separate issue in itself. But this is where boys to becoming men need to continue to have mentorships and your friendships in a healthy masculine form is built on that style of camaraderie. You know, you
Yeah.
need to like, hey, sometimes don't get in deep, bro. Don't take it to the brain. Don't take it to the heart so much. Let it go. Give yourself some space. What we're really trying to say is take a breath, take a break, sit back and think about your choices before you act next. You know,
Yeah, no,
and
that's
that and
true
I've
because
had
your choices have
plenty.
consequences too.
Yeah, I know plenty of guys that have taken the worst road and ended up in prison. You know, and
You know, you're reading my mind. A friend of mine, my other friend, he worked at the prison, and we talk all the time. He says, Gary, you don't realize, man, that I see people that have gone through what you've been through, and they're in here
mhm,
because of their actions. You know, they didn't think it out. Maybe they didn't have anyone to talk to. Because you're in that spot where it's just really living day to day, didn't know how I was going to get through it, how I was going to be a father to my children. And also, my son was watching. You know, I had to set an example for him, and it was hard. The other challenge was my father wasn't in my life growing up. I think he and my mother split, I don't know,
there
maybe
are
three
so
years
many
old.
of
And I
us
had
with that same exact story. I mean, my dad wasn't in my life. My dad came back from Vietnam. He was
yeah,
just he was tore up from the floor up, and I saw some
yeah,
of his traits in me. And it took had I not been the person that I am and the training and the mentors that I have, I would have not want to reconcile with some of those internal issues. And it could be
yeah,
about lying. It could be about false identity, how you hold yourself, how you carry yourself, you know, and I can definitely
true.
tell you my friendships, my male friendships are the ones that are just like, you know what? I got your six, but you got to stand straight, stand fast, bro. It's time to, it's time
Yeah,
to answer to the tide. You got to deal with it, man.
yeah,
And that's just the way
yeah,
it
deal with it.
goes. And you know well as I do in the service, paying attention to
Hmm.
detail, having your teammates back
Yeah,
100%, finish the
yeah,
orders. These are impeccable things that men panic, they pivot off of. It's their
yeah.
launching pad. You tell a guy like, look, I give you my word, and he really means it. There's no going back. That's just it.
No going back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the thing is, but also on the flip side of that is how we can decompress. Like, look, I know you gave your word, and you may not been able to facilitate that, or you weren't able to do this. But when you look at actually what takes place, it's really going to matter what the next steps you're going to make going forward. You train your mind, you train your spirit, you train your body, because a guy is responsible to protect, preside, and provide. It's that simple.
you know, and that thing about protection that can be a challenge sometimes.
Oh
And again,
yeah.
even
Oh
with
yeah.
my wife today and my daughter raising her, that I share with her, you know, the love of your father is to also protect and watch over you. That's why I watch your company. I was the guy. I had the guys come to my house. I had the pizza parties at my house. I wanted to see her surrounding, and I also wanted her friends to know she has a father present in her life, and brothers, right? So I did as much as I could to set that example. Again, not having a father, but I said, you know, how would I want it to be, and just be there for your children, you know, and even as a husband, my wife sometimes will want to go out and do things like go to the mailbox down the street at night, and I say, hey, let's do it tomorrow, you know. And it's
Hmm.
like I'm not trying to boss you or tell you what to do, but it's dangerous these days. You know, a lot of people go out and don't come home. And I said, if it's that important, I'll go, or I'll go with you. It's not I'm trying to control you or anything, but that's just my internal that hey, I'm the man in the house, and that's just our role, right? If you want to protect your family, I don't know if it's inbred or well, I guess it is. It's
And
part
the
of our role,
protection
I would
comes in
think.
so many forms because it's not just physical. It's like, hey, I don't want to greet my daughter's boyfriend with a baseball bat. But
Right.
but look, you see that happy face on her? I like to keep it that way.
Hmm.
You put a tear on her, I'll warn you. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. You'll know. That's it. That's it.
Mhm.
That's all I need to express. And let me tell you, when I was talking to a friend, he's like, "Dude," I was kind of telling the example, like when it comes that time, I will say exactly that. But right now, I don't have that. But it's that protection is like, look, I respect her. I want you to respect her. That's all I ask. I'm not gonna say guys and boys will be boys. I'm just saying respect. And if you don't know what that is, ask me. Because the unforeseen consequences are not going to be ones that you may be able to reconcile with. And that's the thing. So you're sometimes you're teaching that young man who had maybe didn't have a dad, didn't know like, hey, how the respect role is. Matter of fact, um, when I met my girl, I've been with my girl about 7 years. And the first time I met her parents, before I even said hello to her mom or really any of her cousins or anything, we were at a family wedding. And the first thing that I did was I went up to her dad and I said, you know what, Mr. Creo, my name's Jason, and I wanted to formally introduce myself. Straight up. I wanted and I was scared. I was inside. I was nervous inside. I was like, oh, because this is a woman. She not only she sparkled in my eyes, but there was just something deep I felt about her. And when I went up to him, he didn't require it. He looked like an intimidating guy, honestly, hardworking man, straight up. But he was so kind enough, and he's like, "Nice to meet you, Jason." And we began, and ever since then, me and Mr. Creel, we talk. We talk with each other. We see each other. When I go to his house, he's always hospitable, always comparing. We talk about sometimes physical things, cooking things, adventure, travel. We have that respect with each other, and sometimes it can be very fragile. But you have to the sanctuary of male friendships when it's like, hey, planted like a stake in the ground, not very easily moved. They bond. It's like, yo, I got your six, no
I
matter
agree.
what. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely important. Well, I'll give some room for anyone else who wants to come up.
no problem.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Good to see you,
I got on
Gary.
one of your other talks too.
Okay.
You just mentioned the name of it. You were on, I think, Instagram or something the other day.
Hmm.
Uh, Another one about, oh yeah, men not. What did you say? We keep quiet.
Yeah,
And
we
it's
keep
so
quiet.
true.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I said in that post, I basically said that our silent suffering is
Yeah.
is some that we don't want you to experience on a level that we experience, because I'm not saying that we suffer more, but the consistency of the quiet happens. And this is one thing I would tell the ladies. Look at your man about how you read him in quiet. Look at his face, his posture. Look at, a lot of times I heard this thing in TikTok is when a man says he's okay, he's not really okay sometimes, a lot of times. And when he
Yeah.
says, no, I'm all right, he really
Yeah.
means that
Yeah.
that's the one time we're hinting like, we want to tell you, but can you handle it? Kind of like that few good men, you can't handle the truth, no, yeah, no, it goes much deeper than that. And um, but it's a warning sign. And I think that when they want us to read the signs about them, I would definitely have to say, can they read the signs about us? Because our care is important. It's like I was telling my stepman, make sure that when you're interested in a woman, what she brings to the table in her empathy, in her care, her understanding of your needs, not you just catering to hers. It's got
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
mutual and reciprocal place and standing. So, and a lot of guys
I
need that
shared with
training,
my
man.
daughter.
Yeah,
I shared with my daughter. Make sure you bring something to the table.
yeah,
Don't expect a man to take care of you. And she's an entrepreneur. She has her own business, and she attracted her alike, right? Someone else that's an entrepreneur and respectful, and I can ask for a better son-in-law. I mean, they met a couple of years, and then they got married, and yeah. So, but yeah, I'll make room for someone else that's about to end here in a minute anyway. I was glad to get back on. I haven't been on the app in a long time. Been busy on my projects, and only so much time in the day outside of the job to work on other things. And when I hopped on your Instagram, I was just curious to see how you were doing both. So I didn't mean to confuse you there.
It's all right because you know what, that day that I made it, I was going through a major mental beatdown. I was,
Yeah.
and I felt that filming it the way that I was feeling it and coming out clearly was important.
Yeah.
So that's our
Yes, sir.
vulnerability,
Okay.
and it takes that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I definitely will look out for your talks, and I will be doing man to man at least once a month, and I'll probably do it on Mondays or Tuesdays, so for everyone knows, and making it a feature on wisdom as well as it is on YouTube. So if you want to collaborate, hit me up. Send me a DM. I definitely love to work with you, Gary.
I sure will.
All right.
I
All
sure
right.
will. All right, great. Thanks for the invitation, man.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Talk to you
So,
later.
ladies and gentlemen, give Gary a follow if you're on the Wisdom app. And if you're not following on Wisdom, join Wisdom. Go into the App Store and find Wisdom app, or look at the hashtag. And it's a great area where there's a lot of mature audience members, creators, spiritual advisors, coaches, therapists, and pretty much all walks of life. So, you want to join Wisdom, feel free to do so. And hit me up, find me, subscribe, like, whatever you want to call it. I do need, if you're looking for me on YouTube, it's very, very simple, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you do. Because people told me it's hard to find you on YouTube or even Twitch. And I said, just do this 72 the Architect, all one word, just like you see in my screen name. No spaces, no underscores, all one. So 72 the Architect, all one word, and you'll find me. And that's the best way to connect also. So if you want to be a subscriber to my YouTube channel or even on Twitch or Twitter Spaces, I would greatly appreciate it. So getting back into the talk, and I've covered, thank you so much, Mojo. Thank you, Mary and Gary. I really appreciate these people. They're amazing people to listen to and be a part of, especially on here. So I know I've reached an hour, and this is usually longer than I talk, but I think this is such a great opportunity. And I probably might break this up into several episodes just so that people can listen to it. So, where are the resources of how men reach the resolve and begin friendships? So, I'll give you a few book reminders. So, the first book, I'm going to go with James Allen. James Allen wrote a wonderful book called As a Man Thinketh, the inspiration classic, now revised and updated for the 21st century. Guys, this is a great tool. And I will say that, matter of fact, let me take the blur off of my screen because I think that's affecting people how they see it. So let's see, virtual background. I understand. Take that. Okay. All right. So in the YouTube screen, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. This is a true classic. This has a lot of great material, references, and it will help cultivate how to identify with other men. Very, very important. If and for you ladies who have young sons in the up, definitely that. Another book that I would like to recommend is The Four Agreements, um, by Don Miguel Ruiz. This book has, it's based on four principles, and that's be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. Don't take things personal and do your best. Now, there's more to it than what I'm saying. It sounds easy, right? But no, this is a great book because this is literally telling young boys and women how to connect and not overload yourself or overwhelm yourself. I think it's a must read. Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. If you're a Christian, I got this given to me by one of my pastors quite a while ago, Tony Evans, Kingdom Man. So if you're a Christian out there and you want a Christian reference book about a man's struggle and also how to communicate with other men and understand that, I highly recommend this. This was given to me um, from Mike Pedlow. Thank you so much. He was my youth pastor, some 30 some years ago. Now, here's another one, a little controversial, but I definitely support Ryan Mickler's Sovereignty, the Battle for Hearts and Minds of Men. Ryan Mickler, he has a podcast called The Order of Man that is pretty strict, hardcore. They have very stark views, but you know what? You'll get the definitely. This is where I really got that phrase of, protect, provide, and preside, and it gave me a lot of insight in harnessing my well graded masculinity. And then for guys, if you're looking how to connect with people and you feel like you're too egotistical or you just constantly you refer to ego, try Ego is the Enemy. I'm rereading it this month, so I might share in my future podcast. That's Ryan Holiday's Ego is the Enemy. You can purchase this anywhere books are sold, online or whatever. And then the last, uh, I would consider it a great masculine Bible and connection is Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. So let's see if it gets into focus. For some reason, it's coming out a little blurry. But this version is written by Gregory Hayes and Ryan Holiday, who I read the Daily Stoic on my Rising Grind show, has definitely um, you know, shine some light on how I look at life and my daily training. That's the thing is, guys, um, we want to get more into how we connect. I was reading from that article when some speakers came up. So just to go, over the last few things, you know, how and making friends, spending time in nature, okay, camping, hiking, fishing, and road trips. Great for connecting with other guys or volunteering. Yeah, sometimes you know what, construction skills, plumbing skills, whatever, helping people out in need shows the resolve of men. The article also went on to go and say, it says, to build male friendships, you first must have first have to have friends. As children, we find ourselves in situations in like school that are ripe for making friends. However, in adulthood, we get busy. People move and new relationships. Take time away from build take time away from building friends. But if you don't have many or any friends, you're not alone. The phenomenon of the friendless or loner adult has been documented in countless surveys. One survey, over 20,000 American adults found 2 in 5 feel isolated and lack of meaning relationships. Another found that the average American adult hasn't made a new friend in 5 years. So, what can we do to make friends in adulthood? It says, as an adult guide to social skills for those who are never taught. The New York Times journalist Eric Ravenscraft says that it states that self motivation must decide you're going to make new friends actively and put in the situation where it may happen. Once you put yourself out there, be brave, start a conversation. And that's true. So for guys who don't have friends, take away the emotional landmines. It's going to make a difference. Don't worry about whether you're going to offend someone. Don't apologize when you're meeting brand new people. Just sometimes you say something socially awkward, just roll with it. All right. Well, that's pretty much really what I wanted to talk about the show. And I might do a part two, maybe later on this week. So thank you so much for those who've tuned in on Wisdom. Shout out to my loyal listeners and friends and colleagues. I definitely appreciate you. I've had Sonia, I've had Gary. Thank you so much. Lois, Mojo, Kristen Brown. Thank you so much, and many, many more. Rocksteady, hey man, thank you for coming by and giving Frankie J. Thank you so much for giving me the support. Chad Phillips, Devron Dougherty. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, but good to see you, man. So, if you have an issue where you think men can best develop, send me a message in the back channel here on Wisdom, or send me a message on my profile is Linktree. You can send it to me in IG, Instagram, Twitter, and be a part of the show and follow me. And when I make my content, whether you want to be a part of it live or listen to it recorded, I highly encourage that. And that's a benefit. So if anyone would like to come up on the stage before I end the show and offer, what do you think? Oh, Roxy, I didn't know I wasn't following you. If you'd like to come on just for a few moments, add your thoughts before I close, I would definitely love to hear from men and women, and maybe something you've learned. So definitely doing that availability. All right, so let's see if anyone is out there. All right, Becca, let's see. Thank you so much for coming in, Becca. You've returned. Nancy Villatoro, thank you very much for coming by. All right, well, that is it for the show. So make sure that you tune in. I am trying to put my website together. I thought I had it ready. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how I do apologize, but I've had glitches along the way. And I'm pretty excited. I got some new equipment today. I got my lights, and I will share some of those lights. And one of the things, it makes a big difference in your production and when you're going on live on video. So for those who are watching on YouTube and so forth, you can do that. I'll do more of a podcast. So, all right, everybody, you all have a great night and take care.